Many of you know Dr. Kimo Alameda from his previous work, first with Bay Clinic and then the Hawai'i Island Community Health Center. He's going to talk to you maybe about some of his new travels. I want to really give thanks to Dr. Kimo for his work with the Fentanyl Task Force and really starting the Fentanyl Task Force on Hawai'i Island and being the first Fentanyl Task Force in the state. So Dr. Alameda is going to talk to you about healthcare issues and reintegration. So please welcome Dr. Kimo Alameda.
All right, aloha. Wow, so good to see so many familiar faces. This is so awesome. Finally got to all come together again we had the Fentanyl Summit, but this summit I think is even as important or maybe even more important. Because I don't know about your family, but I think every family can attest to the fact that we get somebody justice involved. First cousin, second cousin. For me, I had my two brothers. So I'll share a little bit of that experience as well, what it was like to be the third brother, the younger brother. My dad said, hey, how come you gotta be the youngest one, forgive your older brother's advice? Supposed to be the other way around. But it is what it is, so. But yeah, it's good to be here. I wanted to ask you guys a question first, right off the bat. And just, first of all, thank you, Les. Where's Les? Big round of applause for Les Estrella, everybody. Hey, this is awesome. We got to figure out a way to do this every year. But before we start, so healthcare. Okay, so if you can have one talk story, where is health? Anyway, let's just talk mental health. Where is mental health? Where is it? Where would you say is it? Where is it? Okay, we'll go ask this side. Okay, split you guys in half. Anybody, just yell them out. Where is mental health? Anybody? In your brain, in your brain. Okay. Okay, how about this side? Anybody, yell them out. Where is mental health? Where is it? It's in your head. In your support. Thank you. Where else? Where else? The middle. Where else is mental health? Everywhere. Thank you. So we have the whole continuum, right? So if you only think mental health is in your head, then most of the solutions going to be medication then, right? So the psychiatrists, they love that answer. Mental health's all in your head, bro. Right? So that they get plenty of business after that. Right? So, well, some people think that mental health is everywhere. It could be in your support group. Could it be in your church? Amen to that? Okay. All right, now we stay in church. Hey, could it be in the community? Absolutely. Could it be in the family? Absolutely. So the lens we wear will dictate the services we provide. So if I'm a family therapist and you tell me where is mental health, I'm going to tell you it's in the family. If I'm a psychiatrist and you tell me where mental health, I'm going to tell you it's in their head. If I'm a pastor, a reverend, a priest, a bishop, you tell me we're mental health, I'm going to tell you it's in my church. So it's actually everywhere. And unfortunately, in our country, mental health is in our wallet. Because the research shows that those who have those resources, they get more access to mental health. And that's super unfortunate, and it shouldn't be that way. Can I get an amen to that, too? Oh, man. So yes, and so the presentation today is health is everywhere. If I can turn this on like that. And so I had a TV show on Naleo, Channel 53, and it was Health is Everywhere. Because when you think about it, all roads lead back to health. And so let's talk about, so have that kind of context as we talk about what I see as the 5,600. So anybody take on guess this side? Anybody take on guess at what 5,600 is? Kind of guesstimation. It's kind of like my guesstimation. That might not be like accurate, but pretty close. Today's rent, maybe. Today's rent, 4.5 bedroom. Lord have mercy. If it was that cheap, I'd kick my kids out already. So 5,600 Hawaii residents incarcerated. 5,600 Hawaii residents incarcerated. And that's a lot. So if you count all the vacancies and the workforce issues we get, we could really use their support in helping to fulfill those gaps. Okay, you guys, just testing you now. What anybody at this side? What $250? Your best guess? Yes, about the cost per day if they're incarcerated in the state of Hawaii. But if they're incarcerated in Arizona, $110 a day. Wow, and Sarah Donnell? So go figure, right? So whatever programs they get in Arizona, which my nephew attended that program. Basically, they brought Hawaii to the program. They get a Hawaiian program in that. He came back chanting and everything. Very impressed. What I never like is half of his face was tattooed as well, but hey, he's into it. So, but that was helpful. So I know we talked earlier about, programs for our residents who end up incarcerated or justice involved. That's super, super important. And the testimonies that you hear from our inmates in Arizona will attest to that. And so that's really important. What is the 48%? We just had a real awesome presentation right before this. Thank you. 48%, about up to 48% is Native Hawaiian. So when I talk to my Native Hawaiian colleagues, and we talk about justice, they're like, is it just us? Or justice? So, I was like, I don't know, but I think it's just us. So that's the issue that we gotta look at, and we gotta really explore and figure out, right? And that can go back, decades. That can go back to the Hawaiian Kingdom and what happened. But we shouldn't stop focusing on that. But definitely Native Hawaiian approaches has been successful in the reintegration process. So that's good. So 95%. How about anybody on this side? Take a guess. That's not a hard one, but no, almost. So 95% of everybody who get incarcerated or get justice involved will be released. We're going up to 95%. They will be released sooner or later, right? So we got to be ready, and that's why we're here. So if 95% gonna be released, how are we getting ready for that? So I thought that was an important number. By the way, I've been presenting for almost 30 years now. I noticed my PowerPoints only end up with very small information on top. So I figure I just use the whole slide. They said I needed one PowerPoint. I never need one PowerPoint, but I figure, okay, I put something together then. I really could fit all of these statistics into one slide, but you know what I mean? But this is how you're going to remember, right? Okay, so that 95%, right, they get released. So 50% of them, within 1 year, go back. 50% within 1 year. Oh, my goodness. How are we going to talk about healthcare if they're not even out for talk about healthcare? You know what I mean? So when I was thinking about this presentation, I was thinking, wow, there's a lot of precursors before we even talk about healthcare. That's one of them. And within the 75%, within 5 years, 75% go back. So when we talk about healthcare, now we're only talking about 25%. That's not fair. So for me, why is that, right? Like, what does incarceration do for us, for our people? What does it really do? What is it really for? And why is America, our country, why is it that we incarcerate more individuals than almost all the other countries combined? Money. It's some business. Wow, now I get audience participation. I didn't even ask for them. Hey, boy, you guys feeling comfortable now? I feel sorry for the next speaker. Okay. Wow. Yeah. So, but Here is why the recidivism might think. Because you're out of prison and you're out of work. And that's one big determinant to health. You keep our people healthy, keep them employed. You got to keep them employed. And so let me ask you this question. What if you were only known for the most horrible thing you did in your whole life? What if you were only known for that? And everybody remind you of that. How would that make you feel? Absolutely shitty. Right? Make you feel junk. So that's what many of our friends who are in justice involved feel. And when my brother guys had to go apply for jobs, and had the box that said, have you been incarcerated? Was you arrested in the past 5 years? It's like, I call them invisible handcuffs. The kind, wait, I did my time, huh? How come I still feel like I still locked up? So we have stigma. We have a major stigma. I mean, when I did the fentanyl summit, I was like, hey, yeah, we got stigma with people who get substance addiction issues. But now you put on incarceration. Oh, you're talking double whammy. And then when they get out, if you're talking homelessness, now you're talking triple whammy. And I'm not going to talk about housing because that's the next presentation. But it's going to lead there since rent is only $5,600 now. All right, so in 1998, Hawaii, that's why I love Hawaii. That's why I think we're the mainland. Because in 1998, Hawaii legislators got together and they said, you know what, we're going to ban that box that you've been incarcerated, right? We're going to ban that box because that is stigma. They did their time, right? Everybody deserves a second chance. And so why we here is we make sure that they just make that second chance as awesome as possible. So now, when people apply for jobs, no more the box. And that's moving in the right direction. It took 10 years later before Massachusetts or something for say, hey, Hawaii, that was a good idea. We're going to ban the box too. I was like, hello, could have told you that. And soon later, they started to follow. So Hawaii is awesome. Love Hawaii for that. So I wanted to have an exhibit because you don't want to hear me talk, right? So I like somebody stand in evidence that good employment equals good health. And I ask Zena, where you at? Zena, come. Because I'm on the board of Going Home Hawaii, yeah? And I see the workers that work there, and I'm thinking, you're in college. Wow. Super impressed. But that's my exhibit one. I saw Judge Abara around, so I was thinking, hey, he gonna like my exhibits. So can you just share with us 2 minutes? Is it true story? Is it true story or not? Come here, you like the mic. I give it to you. Right there. Put your hands together for Zena, everybody.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out to Going Home Summit, first and foremost. So health and workplace and having employment. I always start my stories with back when I was a crackhead, because that's when it started. So back when I was a crackhead, even though the things I did were not of productive and they were not good and they were of chaos, I found purpose. And I found people that at least accepted me for the things that I did, even though it was super chaotic. And that feeling is super important that you belong. So fast forward, now I go to jail. I found a job in jail too. I found a place in there. They gave me employment. No problem. Do my time, get out of jail. No jobs to be found. I'm telling you how hard it is. Serve your time. You're telling me that I've walked into the light and it's super gray out there. Having idle time out there, whether you sober, when you sober, doesn't take long till you're not, because what you can do with your time? You can go back to the people that at least gave you a feeling of belonging. So when I finally got employment, dishwashing, cleaning hotels, scrubbing toilets, Wasn't a great job, but at least I finally found a place. And when people started to trust me, I wanted to work longer, and I wanted to work harder, and I wanted people to trust me. You know, I know because I was a thief before, and I was a burglar. Like, you had to hide things from me. And now I'm entrusted with things, and that's a good feeling. And because people trust me with that, I never want to steal again. I never want to burn bridges again. And that wasn't anything that was the community trusting me through employment. So I'm so grateful that I work for Going Home Hawaii. I feel like I found a place and I get to give back. I finally feel like I'm a part of the bike and that I'm a part of the big wheel, not the training wheel that is just side now. Thank you for having me up here, guys.
All right. Love that, love that. That's health. That's mental health, right? Thank you. Hey, I'll call up another one. I get exhibit 2. Is there a Michelle in the house? Come on, Michelle. Our CFO. Is there a Michelle in the house? Oh, come on, Michelle, please. I just want to kind of prep them. I said, I may call you up, that's all. Nothing's better than a testimony, that's right. Okay, Michelle, come on now. Employment. Is health there?
Yes.
Shut up.
Thank you, Dr. Kimo. Anyway, first of all, thank you everyone for making today happen. It's a blessing and an honor to be a part of something so big. And like Les says, after today, hopefully, there'll be positive changes and effective change all over. So anyway, I want to piggyback off of Dr. Kimo's numbers on the screen. So yes, I did cost the state $250 a day for maybe a span of 15 years. So I am part of the 95% that is released, and I am part of that 50% that went back in within a year. I've been just as involved for over 15 years until, and I want to shout out to Judge Ibarra, Judge Nakamura, and Grayson for developing and planning and implementing the drug court program. That's where change happened for me. So I'm not part of the 75% that goes back and does 5 years. Anyway, for me, and that's where, part of the drug court program, there is a goal for you, and part of it is getting employed. So, you get employed, you get health care. And with health care, you take care of yourself, your well-being, and you take care of others. And for me, it's all about to thine own self be true. Because if you're true to yourself, then you can be true to others, your community, and everyone else that you care about. So, yes, thank you very much, and thank you, Dr. Kimo.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Michelle. So I cannot re-emphasize the point enough. We gotta work towards helping our justice-involved individuals find employment. And to all the agencies out there, and I'm looking at a bunch of them, who are justice-involved friendly and recovery friendly, God bless you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. So healthcare. Okay, so is it in the clinic? No. I believe healthcare is outside the clinic. Actually, in the clinic is sick care. Okay? Because you're sick, you stay healthy. That happens outside the health clinic. So that's good employment, right? But you still need to make sure that you get that transition into insurance. And so I wanted to talk real briefly. I make sure I check in my time over here with our MC. How much time I get, Heather? Okay, 15 minutes. Hey, real quick, I'd like you guys to know that we do have a service out there that can engage our justice-involved individuals prior to them being released. And I'd like to call up Kumukahi. You guys got a representative for come up? Oh, Brother Peter. Yes, sir. Peter, tell us about what your staff do so everybody know that, hey, if somebody's just involved, they're being released, how can we tie them into healthcare quickly?
Yes, definitely. Aloha, everyone. I recognize so many familiar faces. My passion in this definitely comes with our own family being justice involved. With my brother, with Frank Pauline, probably the most hated person in Hawaii for so many years, and to finally get exonerated. We never had the resources to help him get the good lawyer, get the DNA test, none of those things. And so, that's where my passion is, to help those folks that just do not have the resources to live the best life that they can live. And so at Kumukahi, we accept you for no matter who you are, whether you identify as a crackhead or someone that uses drugs, or, we help the COFA population, we help those in all different walks of life. It's a safe space for people to come. And especially for those that are justice involved. We have our amazing team, our MedQuest team, and they have been working with Anti-Aloha Belize and going home Hawaii, and going into the prison and the jails to make sure that they have equal access to healthcare and sign them up with MedQuest to unsuspend, I think the term is, their MedQuest, so they can get the help that they need. So that's Kumukai. We do a whole lot of things. We have a great group. Thank you so much for doing this and bringing me up. Mahalo nui.
Very good.
And don't call me last minute again. Let me.
Hey, last minute's the best. By the way, this is a piece of advice. You like somebody ask you for help you, no give them like the 1 week notice. It's all anxiety attack they're gonna get. Just tell them 5 minutes before, and they, no enough time for be anxious. So, I like that term, unsuspended. That happened to me many times in high school. That was my enrollment. So if I ask you folks, give me some other, social determinants of health is kind of my thing. I really believe that the health choices we make really depend on the health choices we have. Okay? Not everybody get the same health choices. And that's why when your zip code is a better predictor of your health outcomes than your genetic code, we have a problem. Okay? Thank you. True story. I'm not making them up, I promise. No, this is research. And so this is why I keep moving up the riverbed. I always thought that maybe, because my thing was like, if kids could only feel good about themselves, then, they'll do good in school, and then maybe they're good in school, they'll get a good job, and life would be good. But then my wife's a teacher. She's like, if people only could read and write, then they would feel good about themselves. Then they would get one job, so it's like, what comes first? I was always trying to find the root. So I was a school counselor for a little while, school teacher for a little while, and I was like, okay, we're doing the best we can with what we got. Then I started thinking, wait, the school system, like this got to be revisited, right? And then I went back I became a psychologist, and I was taught that, hey, you're a sick person coping in one normal system, and so you need one psychologist to come in here and help you to be more of one healthy person. But then I realized, no. You're not one sick person in one normal system. You're one person who's normally coping in one sick system, right? It's our system that broken. Things like racism, sexism, heterosexism, the isms, right? That can come upon somebody, go under their skin, and physically make them sick. True story? Yeah. So healthcare got to go beyond the clinic. It has to work its way up on the riverbed. Okay, and that's why I keep moving up on the riverbed. Okay? Because good public safety is good healthcare. If I scared for walk around my block because I might get robbed, I'm not going to walk. Right? So when we get awesome prosecutors like Mr. Keldon Walgen over there, thank you very much, Keldon. Love you, bro. who try to also look at the balance and keep our communities safe, that's connected to healthcare. When we get recreational opportunities, gyms, parks, fields, beaches, when we get access to that, when the state, county make programs accessible, not just physically, but like financially, so it don't cost too much, then we can get involved, we can play, we can take our families. That's healthcare. And of course, mental health, treatment, addictions. They had a survey, 117 mayors. Bye-bye, you go Google them. By the way, Bombay means later on. I'm going to translate. But Google it, and you'll find the mayor's conference. So 117 counties and cities went Vegas. They had a conference. But they asked them one question, like, what is your biggest crisis in your county? 88% mental health. Wow, number one. So I'm doing the research, what is number two? 82% substance abuse, substance use disorder, addictions. Top two, crisis in our counties. Our county never responded, but Kauai did. Same survey, same thing. So what are we doing for that? We really concerned about healthcare? Let's focus, let's go up the riverbed. Because remember, in the clinic, you're sick already. Okay, that's not healthcare. What is that? Sick care. Oh no, I just coined the term. No. So that's super important. And that's why I think one of the recommendations is to look at this 24/7 drop-in center. We need a mental health, substance addiction drop-in center where at any time of the day, somebody can come in. And if it's too hard to decide, Kona Hilo, make them mobile. Put them in one four-wheel clinic. Drive them around. Everybody share. But at least it's something, that's a start. You know, a drop-in center, I think that's something that we can look at. And of course, you know, we get this fentanyl crisis. One person every 11 days dying on our island. One person every 36 hours dying in our state. In our country, it's a major problem. Fentanyl, if I'm the president, I would call it a weapon of mass destruction. Why is that? Because it has killed more people than all the wars combined. It's sad. And if I was the president, I would declare a national emergency on fentanyl. Thank you, right? So that we can release the funds, because the opioid settlement money, thank you, 70 million, something like that, over 20-something years. He come a little bit when you get 4 counties, okay? So that's super important too. And you know, everybody I see over here, you know, we're all focusing on that too. And so this is the group, but this is the choir, right? So we got to figure out a way for send the message out. I'm so happy to see our county council people here. Big round of applause for our county council members. You guys, yes. And some state, and I see our judges, probation officers, health providers, advocates. It's so awesome, so awesome. So, and then the last social determinant of health is housing. It's hard to advance in life if you're always on survivor mode. And when you are houseless, you're on survivor mode. And it's tough. And I've been getting more connected to the homeless because I go on a daily walk in Hilo from Spencer's all the way to Coconut Island, come back. So I'm making friends with the homeless. And that 48%, it's not guys that fly in here, you know. A lot of them is Hawaiians, local people. And that's unfortunate too. But I want to leave that for the next discussion. But now, for all of you guys, if you are in a job and you think you get the worst job in the world, then here's my slide for you, okay? The toothbrush. Sometimes I feel I get the worst job in the world. The toilet paper. Yes, right. Hey, thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of the day, everybody. Aloha.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Kimo. And just to talk about the intersectionality that's already happening because of some of his efforts and others, I'm happy to say that the Hawaii Health and Harm Reduction Center, in collaboration with the Department of Health, will be deploying 5 naloxone vending machines to this island over the next couple of weeks, one at HCCC for people that are leaving incarceration. So we've heard some really powerful stories this morning talking about personal experience, lived experience, really talking about healthcare, talking about values, connection, ohana. We have to do a really deep dive into housing. And so really grateful that we have Ian Costello from the Corporation for Supportive Housing. As many of you know, CSH has been a big partner for us in this state around not just supportive housing, but also helping us look at how we can do better data systems. Now, data may be probably not the best thing to talk before lunch, Ian, but at the same time, how many of you have multiple databases, that you have your own EMR, and then you use HMIS if folks are houseless, and if you have AMHD, you use Avatar, and if you're with ADAD, you use WITS, and I could keep going, but I won't with the acronyms. But we have too many different ways. Things don't move with people. And Ian's going to talk a bit about not just Corporation for Supportive Housing, but an initiative called Fuse that makes it a lot easier to break these silos and be able to follow the person outside of those silos. So please join me in welcoming Ian Costello from CSH.
Hi, everyone. Do I have a clicker? Is it this? Yes. Okay. Let me see if I can advance it. All right, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Ian Costello. I am a senior program manager from CSH. More importantly, I'm the one in the way of lunch. And also following a really wonderful presentation. So I'm the next speaker that was referenced earlier, so that's me. But it's great to be here. Thank you so much. I want to also point your attention to your folder, and inside the folder is a really great summary of the forums that were held from Going Home Hawaii earlier this year that I was invited to speak at as well. And my presentation here today is really an outcome from those forums, recognizing that there is a disproportionate amount of people who are experiencing homelessness that are also experiencing the justice system. And the forum's key outcome was that government agencies, as well as providers from across Hawaii Island and other places like me, I'm from LA, came together to make commitments and acknowledge that we need to work together, share data, share resources, find solutions, and do so by making investments and seeking equity. And one of my colleagues, formerly from CSH, she works for LA County now, she talks about, her name is Vanessa Rios, and she's a fabulous person, and she talks about equity as money, and that equity means investment, it means money. And if we're not applying resources and money, we're not pursuing equity. And I carry that with me a lot too when we're talking about equity approaches, and it's about funding. So just a little bit about CSH. We're divided up geographically. My colleague Heather Lyons, who many of you may know, she unfortunately couldn't be here today, but she covers this area of the western states, including Alaska and Hawaii. I work nationally, so I'm kind of all over the place. And CSH, we do a lot of different things. I do technical assistance, sort of actively what I'm doing here, hopefully. Consulting, we have a training center, as well as lending. We have an arm, we're a community development finance institution, and we do pre-development and construction loans for supportive housing. Ooh, and I need to make sure I have the right time, because I promised everyone around me at the break, as well as Heather and Les, that I would stick the landing at noon, so you'll get out to lunch on time. So a little bit, just to set the stage before I get into Fuse. CSH, there's a lot of research out there, and CSH has done its own research as well. And we recognize that from one of the estimates that we put together, National Needs Assessment, in Hawaii, we need roughly 4,000 units of supportive housing, and this was from 2008. So you can only imagine how many more units we would need today. 2018, But still, old data. I mean, 2018, 2008, so much has happened in the last couple of years that would change this metric. So I really want you to view this as a floor, not a ceiling, of what the need could very well be across the state. And it's been brought up before. I'm really thankful for the previous presenters of really setting the stage for me in a lot of different ways, particularly around speaking about equity and speaking about overrepresentation. In Hawaii, there's a significant overrepresentation of Native Hawaiians, not only in the justice system, but also those who are experiencing homelessness. And as a huge problem, and it's recognized across the entire country. This is not an aberration. This is not specific to this state or this community. It is nationwide, that Black, Indigenous, and people of color are overrepresented in our systems of the justice system, but also homelessness, and are compounded. Those experiences, negative experiences, are compounded when those cycles are perpetuated. So, and I'm really grateful for the knot imagery from the first speaker. I was like, yes, I have a knot in my presentation. I wanted to talk about, frequent user systems engagement, really focusing on the plural of systems. And we're talking about multiple systems, whether it's 2 or 14. So what is it? It's a recognition that people cycle through systems of care, and the justice-involved system, which is necessarily called the system of care, whether it's health, justice, homelessness. It's a perpetuation of resource deprivation. Someone is not getting what they need at a particular point in time. And what Fuse seeks to do is address that through data as well as qualitative experiences to connect people to what they need before they need to go, 3 systems experiences further ahead. CSH and myself in particular, I think personally I've probably worked in about a dozen communities that have implemented Fuse. It's a program, but it's also about systems change, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. And it's worked in a number of communities. I have an example at the end of toward the end of my presentation from Portland, Oregon, but I've worked with small communities and big communities alike to implement Fuse. Rural communities, I've worked with 7 communities specifically in Montana, and it's not necessary to have a big community with lots and lots of money and resources and people. It's happened everywhere. So that's really important to recognize that this is something that's possible to be implemented in this community. There's an overview, and I won't bog you down with too many of the details here, and I expect these slides will be shared with you, so if you really want to learn more, definitely check it out. And it might look clean, like, hey, here's these 3 different phases and 10 different steps, and we're on our way. And obviously nothing about systems implementation or program design is this clean or simple, but these are the key steps for us to get to Fuse. And I would like to focus specifically, because I'm the data guy, on step 3, which is that data match. So what does frequent use look like? Let's just definitionally. There are people that have periods of institutional involvement. They're oftentimes lack chronicity, and I'm sorry to get too wonkish on you ahead of lunch, but chronic status, any COC people, and if you know what COC is, raise your hand. Okay, cool. So those folks probably know what chronicity is more than most. Chronicity is a federal definition. It's a regulation in the code, and you can't get around it, you can't go under it, you can't go over it, you have to use it. You have to, if you're using specific funding. And chronicity basically says that you need to be experiencing homelessness, unsheltered homelessness, for 12 months, and there's this other calculation about how many episodes of homelessness that is, but, and you have to have a documented disability. And if you don't have all of those things met, you're out of luck. You don't get the mainstream permanent supportive housing that is the cornerstone of a lot of the mainstream homelessness response systems across the country, especially in smaller communities that have no other resources. They don't have large general funds that can build and maintain a lot of housing stock. So this issue of chronicity, and this is a policy decision, and governments make policy decisions all the time, and some people win and some people lose. And that's just the nature of government and policy. And what we've noticed is that people that are experiencing multiple systems involvement don't get that. They don't spend enough time in experiencing homelessness, which is kind of a bizarre thing to think about, because they're also in jail, or they're also in the ER, or they're also in inpatient psychiatric treatment. And so they're locked out effectively from the resources that would end their homelessness, that have been proven to end their homelessness. And in developing Fuse, we have a few non-negotiables of our system. One is supportive housing. If you're not using supportive housing, and I'll talk a little bit about what supportive housing means to me and CSH, that is in our name, so we have a vested interest in talking about it a little bit. But it means supportive housing. It means multiple systems data sharing and data analysis, which I know is great fun for everyone right now. And then racial equity approaches. We talked a lot about disparities that exist within the community, and that's something that is core to how we design a Fuse. And then finally, and also brought up today, is lived experience. And it's not only lived experience in the, focus groups are important, but it's the design and the decision-making and leadership of people with lived experience of the systems, as well as practitioners, as well as community members, coming together to design a system. Not everyone wants to be the subject of. They want to maybe be the creators of as well. So picture in your mind 2 years, and maybe many of you have experiences or understand this concept, but just picture 2 years, and picture someone going into the hospital. And from a hospital's perspective, we'll picture 2 years in our mind of one person's experience over the course of those 2 years. That hospital may understand that, okay, this person's going into hospital 4 times in the year. That same person has an experience of jail, and the jail system sees this experience. And that same person has an experience of homelessness. And this is what the homeless system sees. And so if you look at it only in isolation, maybe that person doesn't rise to the top of the list for you. The justice system has a list, the homeless system has a list, healthcare has a list, and they've got a million things to do, and they have their own view of someone's case. And one of the first steps of Fuse, third one actually to be precise, is that data sharing that has to happen. And so if you put that picture together, the story isn't about someone's experience in jail, that experience in experiencing homelessness, or that experience in a hospital. It's their experience of systems. And through this data connection, we can then start to extrapolate. Okay, let's look at the whole population. Let's look at how everyone, when we share data together from all these different systems, who's rising to the top now? Who has experiences of all these institutionalizations and aren't getting what they need? And I'm so glad someone brought up the SIM model. Because what would have looked like if this person in particular had gotten assistance the minute they had a jail experience and came into the homeless system? Is that critical time intervention? How can we know that that person would have, a year and 3/4 worth of systems involvement? And how can we provide that person with housing up front so that they never have to go through those experiences? And that's sort of the theory of Fuse. Data play a significant role in that. And I'm going to say, both the quantitative data, the numbers and spreadsheets and Excel that I'm really jazzed about Excel. So if you have an Excel problem, contact me. And also the qualitative experiences, talking to people, understanding what they've been through, because it's so important to combine those things. One of my good colleagues talks about pulling heartstrings and purse strings, and I really like that, the qualitative and the quantitative. It's very important to combine the two because it's so much more powerful. So data are used in a landscape to figure out what's going on. They're used in how we provide services. They're used in evaluation, how well we're doing as a system. It's up to us as a system to provide the quality resources to make sure that people have what they need. It's not the person's responsibility. It's our responsibility to have quality services and to build those. And then finally, in advocacy. And we combine, I think, all of these roles so magnificently here today, where we have all these things playing a part. And in a lot of times in smaller communities, it may be only 6 people. We're looking to serve 6 people within Fuse. And talking about 10 steps and all this data sharing and rigmarole, and it's like, well, why are we doing it? We can house 6 people. And I would say, yes, we can house 6 people, but can we do systems change work at the same time if we just house 6 people? And so the way that Fuse is designed, how it's so intentional and needs to be, incorporating all these non-negotiables and going through all this stuff, is because we're trying to affect a system. And by housing 6 people through a process, we can then understand where are those breakages and what's the dynamics between the different systems that prevent people from getting what they need in the first place. So I just want to hold both of these thoughts in your head, that it's about systems change and housing people. Collaboration is a key. All these. I'm not going to go over all my other colleagues talked about this far better than I will. But collaboration is obviously a key aspect of systems change. Before coming here, I had a conversation about, what is systems change? And it's sort of like an ephemeral experience. Like, well, we'll know it when we see it. We'll know it when we're there. And so when we were talking, we kind of broke it down into these ingredients. Collaboration being obviously a key one. Change. Systems change. So how do we bring about change? Through power analyses, and also reflecting on power and privilege. I hold a lot of power and privilege in my position. The things that I know about the system and about data is powerful, and I have a responsibility to share that with you, with everyone, and to use my skills to advance a program. And that's something that everyone who's involved in program design should commit to. Considering risks, and I'm sorry, I can't quite see what the thing, but systems change. Let's see, can I keep going here? And to bring about change, you have to go through a process, and understanding that it's not about only the end goal, but how we get there is important. The learnings along the way, failures sometimes, and also successes, to not repeat the failures and to amplify the successes, and then also to look back and think about, who did it work for and who did it not work for, and improving on that, because it's not good enough that it only works for most people some of the time. We have to keep refining and advancing a program. And through that comes with a program design. And the framework for Fuse is supportive housing. That's our starting point for our program design. And a quick definition for supportive housing is that it's deeply affordable and has those wraparound services that are tailored specifically to the person being served. And that it's the system and program's responsibility to be able to provide the quality services, but it's voluntary from the resident's perspective to accept them. And that doesn't mean that, okay, well, we'll just stop if they say no. It's like you have to keep at it. It's persistence. And that's where really the quality supportive housing comes into play. There are many types of supportive housing. Single site, we talk about sometimes called project-based or building-based. Integrated, which is a kind of a combination with housing and services on site. And then scattered or clustered housing, which would be out in the community, housing that market rate housing, for example, where services are either brought to the person or they can travel, have services provided to them. Supportive housing has a number of core components. The capital, meaning if you're going to build, right, you have to have money to build something, so that's the capital costs. You have operating costs, which things like facilities and sanitation and security. That's all operating costs, and then services, which are the therapeutic supportive services that respond to the individual's specific needs. And there's a fourth leg, and we've talked about it a lot today, and I'm sure we'll continue to talk about it today. It's community. Healthcare is everywhere. Healthcare is outside. of the building, and I think that's so true. And it's a community effort to help people thrive. Do people have activities that they can go to outside of their building? Are they connected to their neighbors or businesses outside of their building? What does that mean to thrive? That's a question that CSH grapples with all the time. And this quote here is from another focus group in another community, but it's I think speaks to a lot of our objective of making things tenant-centered, making things individual for people. And then it's not so much about the what is being provided as services, more than the how. And I think that's important. It's not only supportive housing, but how is it provided? What kind of supports and quality are there? A little more about supportive housing, and then I'll move on to an example. Supportive housing is low barrier, so it doesn't take much to get in. You have to meet the minimum eligibility requirements, and we try to set the minimum as low as we can. We want to provide the adequate and quality supports for people, and also prevent eviction. So once people get into supportive housing, and many housing providers, any housing providers in the room? Cool. It's been my experience. I'm a nerd and a technology person, and not a supportive housing provider nor a social worker, but I work with a lot of them and have really a lot of respect for them. And what I've heard from people who do this kind of work is that it's easy to get someone housed. It's hard to keep them housed. And so when someone's in supportive housing, it's important that eviction prevention and keeping someone housed once they're in is priority number one. So one of the examples that I want to bring up, and then we'll wrap up, is around Portland. So Portland went through a FUSE process. We're actually in the middle of implementation right now. So they kind of split it up. They called it FUSE 1.0. So I'm going to talk about FUSE 1.0, which was this landscape analysis where they got the agreements to share data from across health. They had Health Share of Oregon, which is a major Medicaid provider in Multnomah County, where Portland is located. They had the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office in their jail system. And they also had the Joint Office of Homeless Services, which is their COC, or Continuum of Care, which leads the housing and homeless space. And what we discovered is that when we combined those three sets together, we found that around 1,300 people touched all three systems. And when we start to break that down, and I'm really sorry, guys, to bring you math, but I'm going to try my best to make it easy. So the numbers here represent a multiplier between the different bookings compared to the Medicaid-only population. So if you're in Medicaid, you're like at a 1, right? So anything multiplied by itself is itself. Sorry again for the math. And so the rate of difference, when you see those numbers, it's that number of the experience of those in just Medicaid. They don't have experiences in justice. They don't have experiences of homelessness. They're only Medicaid recipients compared to those that have a booking. So the rate of difference is within the health system plus bookings is very stark. And that when you see the rate of difference associated with 10 or plus bookings, it's off the charts. So the inpatient psychiatric visits, if you have an inpatient psychiatric booking, an inpatient psychiatric visit, and you're only in Medicaid, that's 1, right, multiplied by itself. Whatever that number is, maybe it's 1 per year or whatever. If you have 10 plus jail bookings, you're 32 times more inpatient psych visits than the Medicaid-only population. That's incredible, and it's incredibly expensive. And how much of that inpatient psych visit is caused by their experiences of the justice system? I don't know the answer to that, but I would imagine it's some. And we looked the core of this. The core of this study was looking at the impact of supportive housing. And what we discovered, sort of the too long didn't read portion is supportive housing works. It works for people. And for people that had 1+ year of homelessness, that met that chronic definition that I talked about earlier, that got into supportive housing, compared to the population that met the criteria but didn't get supportive housing, this was an observational study, is that those who didn't get supportive housing are I don't know if there's I can't see if that an 8 or a 0, but it's 7 point something more likely to be booked in jail than the Medicaid-only population. And if you got supportive housing, you were at a 1. And earlier I said, anything multiplied by itself is itself. So the takeaway here is that supportive housing made a huge difference in the lives of the people that got it, so much so that they were no more likely than the Medicaid-only population to experience a jail booking. And they had all this experience of homelessness, year plus, and also multiple potentially disabling conditions. So just like, really incredible. And some of the other takeaways that we discovered, not only that, if we provided supportive housing to that population, to the entire population, the almost 1,400 people, we would estimate that there would be 400 fewer jail bookings, 50 fewer inpatient psychiatric visits, 17,000 fewer emergency department visits, and over 200 fewer hospitalizations. And would save, roughly 10. And there's some quibbling about savings versus cost shifting, but it's an economic and moral imperative for us to do something. I think we're really interested in working with this community and to bring Fuse. It's a really great model. I believe in it. I believe in supportive housing. That I wouldn't work for CSH if I didn't. And I encourage you to check out a lot of our additional readings. Again, I think these slides will be shared to you, so I encourage you to read more. I know we're headed off to lunch, but and I'll pause so we can transition. But I just want you to think about it. Find a partner, either right now or today, sometime. But to just think about what's positive. Put a positive spin, and not only maybe about my presentation, but about any of the other presenters that spoke today. But what do you like? Just think about the positive thing. What do you like today? And talk to that person and say, I like that because, and give your reason. There's a lot, there's a lot of challenge and there's a lot of hardship in developing projects. And so it's really important to focus on the end goal and to stay positive a little bit. I welcome you to contact us. Our contact information is up there. Please do email me. Emails and PowerPoints are my love language. So I love it. Great. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you all.
Okay, let's give it up for Ian, Dr. Jamie, Dr. Tony, Dr. Kimo for a really robust morning. So we're off to lunch, where you can hooey, but maybe also doey. And you can grab your lunches out there. We will be back here to watch the film at 1 p.m. sharp. You don't want to miss this, coming straight from the mouths of women impacted in incarceration. So let's give it up again to Les and the team, the staff, and the board of Going Home Hawaii. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you back in an hour, and enjoy lunch.